Even though I'm busy or not, I'll be waiting for God to just speak in my spirit or say something toward whatever he wants me to speak on, and he really never did. And so last night, after the wedding reception, I had to leave early, and I said, okay, God, I'm going to get quiet, and I'm going to sit here in this room, and I'm looking for you to give me something, and he still didn't speak. So I went to myself, and I started to look up definitions of what faithfulness actually means, and I realized faith is not faithfulness. They're two different agendas. Faith is a substance that has not been seen that you are hoping for, that in the end it shall produce what you are believing in. But faithfulness is a commitment. It's a commitment to someone or something that you yourself or God has said to be done. Okay, the definition that came out of Google, it said loyalty, trustworthiness, devoted to someone or something, being consistent, upholding your commitment, your promises, and sticking to one's word even in times of being challenged. And even in faithfulness, it has qualities. Reliability, being steadfast, having integrity that's shown in your relationships and your duties. The way I'm seeing, I had to evaluate Tracy. I'm always the first partaker of anything that God allows me to speak. And I do realize that to me personally, I'm not always faithful. I will start something and I won't finish it. I might say I'm going to do, but in the process I get tired. This is just me evaluating Tracy. Sometimes you just got to evaluate yourself. And sometimes when I do say I'm going to do something and it gets tight and it gets hard and it gets frustrating, and I would say in the middle of it, forget it. Not remembering what God said, this is what I have chosen you to do. Not remembering he says that in the end, I got you. But you have to start this thing until the end. This is just me talking about Tracy and my definition of being faithful. And it's saying faithfulness is saying that you have to be loyal in what you have said you're going to do or what God has chosen you to do. And that means you're not easily swayed by different opinions. And he said, in this you got to be trustworthy, meaning others can rely on you to keep your word, to fulfill the obligation that's before you. And in faithfulness, you got to be committed. Committed means you're dedicated to a person, cause, or a principle. Willingness to see the obligation through. And even in faithfulness, you got to have some form of integrity. That's acting with honesty and having some morals about this thing. Righteous in all your situations, steadfast, remaining firm and unwavering in your devotion of what you said you're going to do. Okay, and even in faithfulness, there are demonstrations of faithfulness. It comes from within. What works in the inside comes on the outside and perform which you have dedicated yourself to do. It says internal beliefs that is demonstrated or shown through your actions or your behavior. Me, I got sarcastic. I did. I was sitting in the chair and I said, well, what about Abraham? That's how I did it. And fell back in the chair laughing. Was he faithful? Then I said, Google, tell me, is Abraham faithful? That's what I did. Google said, yes. I sat up like this. I said, whoa. And it started to explain and demonstrate that Abraham was the father of many nations. Abraham, yes, he was faithful. He was faithful to God because he heard God. He might have been a little frustrated, but he kept the course. So God can provide and do what he said he was going to do at the end of it. Yeah. So most people, they focus on Sarah. He did what Sarah said or whatever. God still did what he said he was going to do because of the faithfulness and steadfast of Abraham. So I got sarcastic again. Google was Paul faithful? And I waited for a few minutes. Google said, yes. I said, dang. And I sat up again and said, Paul was even faithful when he didn't know God. Paul did unto his own knowledge, but he didn't detour from being what he was obligated to do. So when God switched his mindset to be like him, he had no choice to be faithful because that's all he knew to do. Amen. So here I go again, just being Tracy. Okay, Google. Was Israel faithful? And I started laughing. It said no. Gotcha. Israel was not faithful to God because of their mindset, what they wanted to do. God walked with Israel. They were without excuse for being faithful. They were without excuse or even having faith. Israel saw the demonstration. Israel heard the demonstration. Israel walked with the demonstrator. How can you not be faithful or show faithfulness with that kind of magnitude? But they were not faithful to God. And here I am again evaluating Tracy. Tracy's not a finger pointer. When it comes to God, I evaluate me because I'm on this walk just like everybody else. It's okay, Tracy, you haven't been faithful. In some areas, I have showed faithfulness, yes. I've doubted. I have been frustrated. I have tugged at the weave. I have prayed and felt like God didn't answer me, and I have talked, and I'm telling you. But he reminded me as I stand here, I've been faithful of a few things. He's not looking for me or anyone else to be a perfect person. If you or I was perfect, what do you need of him? He is the perfecter. It's not about the riches and the wealth and the look or how I feel. It's about what I promised. He promised. What shall be. If you have read the word in a while, everything was I shall. It shall. It will. According to God's purpose. Now the first thing is me. If I say, God, I'm going to do this thing, okay, you're going to have to lead the way. And in the process, as I move along and I don't hear him, that don't mean that I give up. As I walk and try to hear and try to do what he says to do, that don't mean I give up. When the stumbling blocks come and when the hills get, I feel, too high, and when the water gets too deep, I still got to walk in so I can walk through to get to what I have committed to him that I said shall be. Because in the end, God keeps his faithfulness. Everything that I read yesterday, it was always God keeps his promise. Everything that I was looking at, God is faithful. God has faithfulness, God shall supply, God will supply. In the middle of it, we might get discouraged, and God might have to detour around or do something a little different in the middle. But in the end, it shall be perfected. It shall be what he said it's going to be. And that's all he gave me for today. Amen.